Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly. Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, your podcast to help you and your family cruise a little smarter. And I'd like to welcome back to the show tonight. We are recording late tonight. How are you doing tonight, Chris?
Great. It is late. You're right, but that's fine because I think all of us are in the same time zone. So 8 p.m. is not so late.
And Christy, the fireworks are going off right now for Pirate Night, and Christy has been in bed now for 4 hours.
Exactly. I mean, it can't be that late. The fireworks haven't gone off at Disneyland yet.
That is true. Well, I'm excited to bring back to the show. It's been quite a while for a lot of people now that the cruise is shut down for quite a while. But I'd like to welcome back to the show all the way down to Phoenix. How are you doing tonight, Ryan?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back on. And yeah, it was a long time. It's so weird that 4 years ago, I would have said a year and a half to not cruise. What are you talking about? And then you become a cruise junkie, so to speak, or whatever. And then it's like, yeah, that's too long. Year and a half. I can't wait that long. So anyhow, it's nuts. But we got back on. So that's awesome. And
not only did you get back on, but you got back on a back-to-back. So you did 7 nights on a ship, and that's pretty rare in these post-COVID vaccine times.
Yes, we did. Long story short, we had a 7-night Eastern Caribbean out of Port Canaveral, and it was changed to a 4-night. And we decided all of a sudden the Wonder starts moving towards Panama. And we thought, oh, wait a second. We have a 6-hour drive to San Diego from Phoenix. We rebooked on the 7-night Mexican Riviera, and then they shortened it to a 4-night. And then they added a 3-night right behind it. And we said, we'll take that too. Yeah, we jumped on that. It was an excellent choice too. Yeah, I mean, it was awesome. So it was an awesome back-to-back for sure.
Oh, I can't wait to get into it. It sounds like you took a gamble and it almost didn't pay off, but then it ended up paying off because you just could book back to back.
Yeah, totally. You said it exactly right.
So excited to talk about the Wonder again. I was kind of actually shocked that she did come back to the West Coast. I thought maybe she might not because her sailing season out here is actually pretty short. But for all of us who live out here on the West Coast, I know that I jumped on last minute. We are hopefully going to be on Friday, October 15th, sailing on a 3-day. And Chris, you and Seth, kind of the same thing, huh? You jumped on her as well since she's out here.
Yep. We ended up booking October 31st for a true Halloween on the high seas. And between Steve and I, your back-to-back covers both of our itineraries. Steve is taking a cruise that goes to Ensenada for 3 nights. And I'm taking a cruise that goes to Cabo for 4 nights. And you took both of those cruises one right after another. So I'm super excited to pick your brain. I think listeners, so that you can sort of keep track, we're going to treat this like just a 7-night cruise. We'll talk a little bit about that middle part there, just what is it like to do a back-to-back right now. But generally, when we ask about restaurants or shows or entertainment or whatever, we're talking about the full 7 nights.
I think that's the easiest way to do it. Well, let's just kind of jump into it. Ryan, who all went on this cruise with you down out of San Diego?
And we did treat it like a 7-night. We had a port day in San Diego, and it was a 2-hour excursion, which involved testing. And that was all we cared about. And everybody that was on the bus with us, we all joked about that as well. It was our two-hour excursion to get back on the Wonder. So it was myself and my wife and our 2 boys. They're 12 and 9. So the 9-year-old obviously can't be vaccinated. So he had the test 3 days prior, which there's a little bit of anxiety there. You're sitting there 24 hours later, you're refreshing email, like, come on, text messages. That was fine though. And then my in-laws came with me. My wife's mother and her stepfather came with us, and they've gone cruising with us before. Matter of fact, they turned gold between 4 and 3. So they got the gold lanyard when they swapped back over to the 3-night when we got back on board, which is awesome. They've cruised many times before and many times with us. So it was nothing new. Although this was a kind of a new experience, obviously, but it was still awesome.
It was nice to spend some time with family and your family, your immediate family as well. So did you guys do the COVID test for your son in San Diego, or did you do it before you left Phoenix?
Originally, we were going to order the kit just through through the passage through Disney, but they suggested not, because by the time that we sent it in, they said that, with the window there, it might not get results. What I did was 3 days prior to the cruising, I booked a free test for travel at CVS. And then what I did is literally the day that we were traveling, I booked a rapid PCR through just a local clinic. It was about $200, but it was, obviously I'm willing to shell it out just because we were, had so much money tied up in the cruise. We didn't want to stop for just the test. Fortunately, 24 hours later, we got the results from CVS, and it was awesome because there was a little bit of misunderstanding, or, from when I was trying to gather the information from CVS, but I got a link which went right to a PDF file. I was able to download it and upload it right to the Safe Passage website. And I called them immediately afterwards. And I'm like, is this what you guys need? And they said, absolutely. That was like, there's a weight lifted right off my shoulders immediately. After that, we got I think it was less than 12 hours later, we had the, clear to arrive at the port, which was a good thing. So we knew at that point, it was just, we were all going to be tested at the port. So, but yeah, we got the local, basically third party CVS, Walgreens type thing, and it was fine.
Now, just to fast forward, does the requirement for a under 12-year-old who's unvaccinated, does the requirement matter for that second cruise? You obviously can't get another COVID test before that second cruise, right?
You nailed it. I mean, I had the same questions, and I called Safe Passage. I called Disney. I don't know how many times I listened to the Disney hold music loop, when I was sitting there trying to find stuff out. And they said, no, you're okay. You're going to get tested once you disembark on the first cruise, before you embark, you will test again. And so they told us to, ask on board and whatnot. But again, we trust Disney. And sure enough, it all worked out. So basically what happened was, if you don't fill out, I kept getting these emails and these alerts on the app saying, before we had tested our youngest, saying, you need to upload the information. You need to upload the information. And they're just reminding people, because I'm sure when when the Dream first sailed in August, you heard the stories of people not getting on, and there was all kinds of stories of people frustrated and whatnot. So they were definitely sending out the reminders and whatnot. So I kind of wondered about that. And when we got to Cabo, I turned on the internet and the network on my phone, and sure enough, I had gotten an email from Disney saying, you're still not clear to arrive. You need to upload certain information. And I'm like, okay, I can't do anything about that because obviously I'm cruising. I trust Disney. And the night before we disembarked in San Diego on the first 4 night, we got a card, and it said, and stickers, and it was, I think it was Ariel. And they said to wear these stickers and take this card. And as soon as we disembarked, they said, don't disembark before 9 a.m. because what you'll do is you'll get on a bus and they'll take you over to the Broadway Pier, terminal, which is literally, I timed it 5 minutes from where we got on to where we got off. When we got off the bus, we grabbed our testing kits or whatnot. When they went to enter all our information and our reservation, Grady flagged our 9-year-old, saying, there was an issue. There was a kind of a hot sweat for a minute, kind of wondering what was going to happen. And one of the physicians that worked for the Safe Passage people or whoever, they said, oh, this is just an override we need. This has happened twice now. We've seen this. And we were one of the first to get off. So there was relief at that point. So here comes the supervisor, overrides everything. All of a sudden, I got an email that said, clear to arrive. So I'm like, okay, well, we're here. And then we did the test. And literally 45 minutes later, we were getting back on the bus. It was awesome. So yeah, there's a little bit of an override there for the under 12-year-olds that are not vaccinated. They just have to do an override. And the fact that this was our first cruise and their first time doing this, there was a little bit of that unknown. But I tell you what, the fact that it was the first time, it really was, you wouldn't have known it. I mean, there was no complaints from me. They were on everything. So it was very comforting.
That's good to hear. So you get all those emails that let you know that you're clear to get back on the ship. Since I'm going there, and I'm assuming, did you drive? You drove from Phoenix?
Yeah, we drove to Phoenix, from Phoenix to San Diego. And matter of fact, we were going into fall break. We didn't leave town until 4 p.m. And so, of course, I canceled my rapid PCR for my 9-year-old. We took off. We got to San Diego at 10 o'clock at night. We typically will park when we cruise out of San Diego at the Wyndham, right at the garage there, and it's just right across the street. When I tried to book parking like about a month ago, it wasn't available. So I called the hotel directly and I said, if we stay there, can we buy a parking package? And they said, absolutely. And so we did that. And it was a little more than what I'd normally pay for the parking, but I didn't care at that point. So we stayed right at the Wyndham. It's right across the street from the pier and the terminal. So that worked out great.
Okay, so you were able to keep your car parked across the street for that week. You got your negative test and you walked onto the Wonder. What was it like being back on the ship for the first time in a year and a half or more?
Surreal. I told everybody I'm probably going to get a little emotional at the time. It just felt like, you know what it's like. I mean, your Disney cruisers, you fall in love with the ship, you fall in love with the whole aspect of everything, the way that the crew treats you, the way that the cast members are. So we walked on board, and of course we're wearing masks, but I'm telling you, like, when it just, like, the smell, that smell that the Disney cruise ship smell, it just hit immediately. And we were like, there it is. And it was so awesome to just, like, everybody was so grateful to have everyone on board. They walked us over to the little spot. They do the show, the onboard show. And then they're kind of like, see you around the ship, and you go do your muster drill station. And after that, it's like, it's old hat. You're like, you're going up to Cabanas, you're going out deck 4, whatever you want to do. So awesome. It was just very comforting. I had a smile on my face for a while.
I think there will be a tear in my eye and yours too, Chris, when you get on board, isn't there?
Yeah,
well, just
absolutely.
to just set up this cruise. So it was a 4-day followed by a 3-day. The 4-day left San Diego, you had a day at sea, went down to Cabo, then another day at sea, back into San Diego, where you disembarked, went through the whole process we talked about, got back on board. You leave your first days in Ensenada, which is a port that surprised me, to be completely honest. We loved it there the first time we went. And then you have a day at sea, then back into San Diego. So you talked, it was the 4 of you and then also your in-laws. What did you guys do for cabins? Were you able to get, since you transferred from the Fantasy over to the Wonder, were you able to get what you wanted? And were you able to get the cabins near each other if that's what you wanted to do?
Initially, we had guaranteed staterooms, basically. I can't remember what class they were, but we always like to stay forward. So my wife, she's just like constantly checking on there, looking at rooms, she's looking at cabins. And then she's like, 6036, it's available on both right now. I'm going to switch it. And I'm like, go for it. And so we ended up switching forward. We were very aft originally, and our in-laws decided to just stay aft. So they were on deck 7, we were on deck 6. It was fine because literally our boys would run down to their grandparents' room and they'd be there in 2 minutes. And so, we were quite a ways apart, but at the same time, it worked out great. And we had a veranda. I think it was deluxe ocean view veranda. Yeah. 6036. It was amazing. I mean, we were on the port side and great views all the way down. We saw whales on the way down, which is awesome. To Cabo, the first 4-night. First day at sea, we were at breakfast at Cabanas, and I see a couple people looking out. I'm like, what's going on? And then I look out and there's like 4 whales just, coming out of the water, just swimming down. So the cabins were awesome though. We had a couple little issues with them, but I mean, I didn't care. So, I mean, maintenance and customer service, they're all over things like, little things that, like this isn't working right. Or, the AC there was a lot of condensation. We had our balcony open quite a bit, and stuff, but it was awesome. Usually do a room review on a couple of different websites, and I just haven't yet, but I would definitely stay in those cabins again.
I am curious. I have never cruised in the Pacific Ocean except for the Inside Passage in Alaska, which is not really like the Pacific Ocean off the coast of California and Mexico. So my question is, how were the waters? Was it, pretty smooth sailing? And also based on where your room was, do you feel like that was helpful in any way?
We've stayed on deck 5 quite a bit. We've stayed on deck 8 a lot. and we're almost always forward, and 6 was fine. And in fact, I mean, we're one deck above the kids club area, 3 flights of stairs, and we're up on deck 9. Going down there, I think they were doing 20 knots on the way down to Cabo, and it was a little bit, I think they said 5-foot seas, and it was a little, I mean, granted, everybody hadn't been on a ship in a while, so everybody's like, it's a little choppy, right? Is it? And you know, it didn't bug me at all. I didn't notice anyone getting sick. My wife, she wears little bands occasionally, and she wore them maybe once the whole trip. So it wasn't terrible at all. It was a little cool actually on the 3 night for Phoenix people. I'll say that, you know, and we, you know, as it gets below 80 and you're like, ooh, I got to get a sweater. But otherwise it was a comfortable ride. It was nice. And I slept so well on all nights.
Yeah, you're right that we're starting to enter sweater weather here in in Los Angeles. It was 53 degrees this morning when I woke up. So naturally, I donned a parka and went outside.
Get your North Face on.
Put on my goose down. So I hear you. I'm probably going to pack some like comfy sweats and stuff for and oh my goodness, I have quite the collection of Spirit jerseys, which it's always too hot in LA to wear. So I'm gonna rock a nice Spirit jersey on my veranda. But that sounds amazing. Now, did you actually, why don't we talk a little bit about the sort of like first thing you did after your muster drill? Did you go to Cabanas? Did you explore the ship and just walk around because you hadn't been on it in a while? Like what is the new first thing?
So they kind of, once they do the intro show, you walk into the atrium. They do the little Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, welcome aboard dance, which was awesome. It was just good to see cast members having fun and whatnot. We went up, did the drill, take a picture, which was so easy. I tell you what, I mean, you guys have done the muster before, and you're there with all your friends.
Yeah,
this is so much better. I don't know why we couldn't have done this a lot earlier, but anyway, it was fine. We went straight up to Cabanas and had lunch. And we were fortunate that we got on board around 12, I think. Well, let's see. We had a port arrival time of 11 a.m. on the 4 night, and we were on the ship by noon. We were sitting down by 12:30 eating lunch at Cabanas. We had been on, this is, I think, our 4th or 5th time on the Wonder. I think we've been on the Wonder 4 or 5 or 6 times now. I'll have to add it up. That said, we knew the ship pretty well, but we just wanted to go have some lunch. So we went up to Cabanas, and to see, it was interesting to see. I wanted to see how the buffet was working and whatnot, which was fine. If that never changes the way it is right now, I'm fine with that. I mean, people, the cast members serving you, it's totally fine. So we ate lunch, and then we just kind of, by then our room's already ready. So we went back and got the key to the world cards that's on the fish extender thing. That was new. Got our key to the world cards and went in, and then we just kind of wandered around, and I think there was right out of the box, there was a trivia that we went to, and we hit the ground running. So it was
your first trivia in 18 months.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it was a lot of fun.
Should we stick with food then? And
yeah. I was just gonna say, since we got to hear your review of new Cabanas, what was your dining rotation and what did you think of it?
It was great. The first cruise we had been waitlisted for early dining. I think it was about a week before the cruise we were on late dining, and then we got the notification that they switched us to early, which is what we wanted. So there was the 5:30 dining and then the later dining. We had Tritons first, and then we did Animators twice, and then we did Tiana's Place for the final night. They have the new Buccaneers, and it's basically the pirate night where the pirates actually come in the restaurant and dance and whatnot. And we were fortunate to have that at Animators, which was awesome because on the Wonder, they have these big screens where they have all the the art and whatnot. It was all pirate stuff. And I took a ton of pictures because it wasn't just Pirates of the Caribbean. There was like sketches from when they were designing the Pirates of the Caribbean ride from Disneyland. Mm-hmm. And then they had that, and then Captain Hook sketches and whatnot. It was a lot it was very interesting, and we enjoyed it a lot. I said, if this is the new pirate show, I'll take it, because it's just so it was amazing. All the art was amazing.
And your pirate night was on the same night that you left Cabo?
It was, yeah. And we did have fireworks. They kind of kept it low key. And when you get up onto deck 9 and deck 10, there's the little circle spots. If you've been to the parks lately, they have these, the social distancing spots. They had those to stand near. So like our party of, it was actually only 3 of us watching, because some people like to go do other things and whatnot. We had plenty of room on the deck to watch the fireworks, and it lasted, I think, about 2.5, 3 minutes, but it was awesome. I mean, just to see the fireworks go off again. And they didn't have the show with Mickey. That's not happening yet, but it was still amazing regardless. And then Halloween was the next. Let's see, I think Halloween was the first night down, but yeah, people kind of dressed however they wanted to. So it was funny. There was on the second cruise, there would be pirate night. You'd see people dressed up in Halloween costumes. People just didn't care. They're just like, we're just dressing up. So yeah, doing whatever we want.
Chris, I think you're a big proponent of change and doing new things. I know that you love that. And I think this is like an opportunity for Disney, as you said, Ryan, maybe to mix things up and do things a little bit different. I love the idea of the characters. I know that when we first went on the Magic, when they got the Tangled restaurant on there and they had Flynn Rider running through the restaurants there and the guards were chasing him, I think that just added a whole new level of fun while you were eating. And so I love the idea, as you said, of maybe them kind of rethinking what Pirate Night is. And it doesn't have to be get dressed up and then go up on a deck and have a deck party and fireworks. Maybe they can have a little bit more fun with it and do some different things. What do you think, Chris?
Oh yeah, I'm done with pirates. I think I think that they could just do away with it. I know that there are people who love it and it's nostalgic, but pirates as a theme for a fireworks show is really boring to me. I don't find it fun or interesting or inspiring. And the idea that they could do a fireworks show with Disney music and Disney inspiration as a backdrop or a score makes me happy. Which I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but on this cruise, they did the shortened Disney inspirational music fireworks show, right? They didn't do the Pirates of the Caribbean theme with fireworks.
That's true. I mean, it wasn't your typical pirate night. Of course, they had the bandanas, handed those out. My wife's always like, throw these away. We've got 9 dozen of these things. They gave those out, of course, but it wasn't the typical pirate night. It was almost like just a low-key version of a pirate night, which was fine by me. I mean, to me, pirate night I'm kind of like what you're thinking, it's fun, but it's not the reason why I'm there. We don't go on the cruise for pirate night. And honestly, like the 10:30 buffet at Cabanas, it didn't happen, and I was fine with that. Although my son was like, can we get nachos? It's like, no, they're not having those tonight. It was fine. It was a little bit different, and it was fine that way. I'm not I don't like change that much, but this was fine with me. I was completely, you know what I mean? It was one of those things where I'm fine with it. So
I know Disney definitely has to strike the balance between people who want everything new and everything to change and who want the classic stuff. I think, I'm obviously in the new camp, but it doesn't mean that I'm not I have some critiques for new stuff. Like when they released the Mickey's Mix Magic fireworks show at Disneyland, I was like, this is objectively awful. What are you doing? So I sometimes am like, the new thing isn't that great. But in general, I feel like the cruises have the least new things of all Disney experiences. Like theme parks are constantly putting new things, but especially those Disney Fantasy, Disney Dream cruises, it's like repeating the same itineraries, the same themed nights, the same events and spaces. And I get excited when they tweak things. And I think to your point about the muster drill, the reason why they were able to try this new muster drill is because they could argue, hey, this is for social distancing. This allows people to have space and we still get the information out there. I think that probably whoever is in charge of approving muster drills, Steve, you probably know, I don't know if it's the Coast Guard or whoever makes the decision about those rules. was probably hesitant to make changes like this until this pandemic, and they were like, oh, we got to try something new. I agree. And now I bet you this will stay for good. Like, why wouldn't they do this if it means that people don't have to plan their entire first embarkation day around getting into little like clusters for 15 minutes and waiting for every single person to show up before they can start. So I think change can be really good. And I think the cruise line is definitely seeing that.
I could go into an angle with the muster drill, but a lot of that's on Disney and the way they wrote their rules. And so then the regulator kind of has them follow that. Because if you go on NCL, your muster drill was held in the casino in some places or different restaurants and stuff like that. So I think this is just a change. And I bet that it's going to stay. Let's stick with entertainment. How was Halloween on the high seas between the two? I mean, your Halloween high seas sailings, I know it sounds like talking to other people, they're really not doing too much. What was your experience on the two cruises for Halloween?
The 4-night was very low key. They didn't have the masquerade party on deck 9, which I was fine with. And matter of fact, we did an 8-night 2019 on the Fantasy, and that Halloween designated Halloween trick-or-treat night, myself and my boys, we were on the aqua deck writing it over and over and over again. We were having fun by ourselves. So we were fine with that. And then on the 3-night, there was only 400-ish people. I haven't been able to get a straight. Somebody said 420 and then somebody said 395. And all I know is it was very, very low amount of people on the cruise on the 3-night, which was awesome. But the people add energy, which is, you know what I mean? That it kind of feeds that energy, which you like.
Yeah, there's like kind of a vibe when you're on the cruise, and there's people around and they're doing things, and when there's nobody around, it kind of
changes the dynamic. Yeah, which I mean, we had been on enough cruises where we were like, let's take this and enjoy it. You know, like we've been gone for a while. That said, the 3-night Halloween designated, they actually did the masquerade, and it was awesome to see the characters. I went up on deck 9 to watch the fireworks with my father-in-law, and nobody else was up there. And then my wife came up and she's like, oh, they're in costume. And I'm like, yeah, they're going to do the masquerade party, which was awesome because there was such a small amount of people. They said, let's just do it. I guess that was the mindset. It was nice to watch, you know, the dance and all that stuff, and, you know, kind of have a little bit of fun and the songs and whatnot. The fireworks happened, and then it felt really normal, you know what I mean? So it felt like we're back. I kept feeling that, you know, and, you know, following people on social media and watching vlogs and this and that, especially, you know, YouTube, and what the people are like, we're back. And I kept wanting I want that feeling, you know? And then when we saw that, you know, that group of people down there and then the dancing was going on, it really felt normal, like not the new normal, but
right. But that's what did it for you. Yeah.
And I mean, it wasn't just that, but I tell you, as I call it, the longest spring break ever, because we got off in March last year and then everything shut down. It really felt like we were getting back to where we should be, or where we want to be, so to speak. That Halloween party was nothing spectacular. It was awesome and enjoyable, but it felt good to see the characters all dressed up in Halloween and doing their thing.
So let's see, what is the Wonder? The Wonder is doing Frozen right now, and then what is it? Dreams or Believe?
Yeah, Dreams of Enchantment or whatever it is.
Sure. One of the spin the wheel of destiny, find a word.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. What will the ship be called? We didn't watch Frozen on either cruise, which we were wanting to. My wife really loves the Frozen show, and I do too, actually. I mean, honestly, the Aladdin's my favorite show of all of them. But that said, we missed the Frozen show. We caught the tail end of the second cruise of one of them, but we did go see Dream on I think it was the 4th night, because we got back on the 3rd night, for the 3-night cruise, and we went to our muster drill, and one of the assembly supervisors or whatever, I said, you look familiar. Were you in the show last night? She's like, yeah, I'm Cinderella. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I would never have thought that. She's wearing the white cap and the vest and all that stuff. The shows were great. Honestly, it didn't skip a beat from the fact that, and I kept a couple times in the back of my head, I was thinking, they haven't done this in how long? I mean, obviously they've rehearsed, but they haven't done it in front of a live audience, especially on the Wonder, since we came on. And so we were the first show for the Dream show, and they nailed it. I mean, it was back to normal. So, and those shows are, I don't care, anybody, people that don't like Broadway shows, they watch those shows and they enjoy the heck out of them. They're high quality shows. So,
Oh yeah, yeah. They're meant to be, a good tear jerker, put the
yeah,
emotions into it. Totally. That makes a lot of sense. I'm assuming on a 4-night, what do they show each show twice or something like that? So you could choose which night you wanted to go see it.
yeah, they had every other row empty, which, kind of has so what they did was the first 2 nights were Frozen, and then the second 2 nights were Dream.
Okay. And if you wanted, you could see both of those shows twice.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If you could get there in line, you could watch them all. Yeah. There was plenty of room and space and whatnot. They didn't have the concession stand open, which some people just brought their own drinks to,
Yeah, they just don't want people probably
Yeah.
pulling their mask down in the theater.
We never had a problem with that. I mean, like I brought one drink into the Dream show and I would have a couple of drinks and then I'd bring my mask up. I was trying to be respectful to everybody around me and whatnot. You never know how their comfort levels are.
Mhm.
So people were people were very, comforting about that stuff. Everybody that wanted, if you're on the Disney cruise ship, the hoops you had to jump through, and
To
people
get
were
on
wearing,
there.
people were definitely not wanting to make people feel uncomfortable, and that was evident. So that was
Yeah,
nice.
that makes sense. I feel like we've talked about this on our show, but the cruise industry is going to be under a really powerful microscope for a couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah.
All eyes are going to be on how the cruise industry navigates a pandemic. So it makes sense that they're starting out really cautious. And honestly, from every guest we've interviewed, we're finding out that there happens to be a couple of benefits to this new cruising time, like getting the ship to yourself, having your own private luxury yacht that happens to have Disney friends on it. Sounds pretty cool. Honestly, if you signed up for it, you sort of knew what you were getting into. And then you got to go on and you got to have a really cool experience, and maybe it'll never be exactly like this again. So you're just sort of going with the flow, it sounds like.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, we were more than happy to. Just we wanted to be back on board. And there was a couple of times, of course, you don't have to wear your mask when you're on deck, when you're outside, when you're on deck 9. There's some people that do, and that's fine. I usually took mine off when I was on deck 9 or 10. There was a couple of times where I forgot to take it down. I left it on, and I was in line to get a drink at the soft drink station. And one of the cast members was like, you can take it down if you want. And I said, oh yeah, I'm outside. So they're aware of that as well. And then there was a couple of times where we go walking out of our stateroom, we're like, masks, you forget. And you're like, oh yeah, we got to grab these. We brought plenty of masks. So we had my wife makes a bunch of them. So we had Halloween, we had Disney Halloween theme. And that was definitely one of those things where it didn't sour the mood of the cruise at all. And I'm sure you've heard from people that say that the same thing. It doesn't, as soon as you go somewhere and sit down to eat, you're taking it off to eat. And you're going to somewhere to have a drink, you're taking it off to have a drink. I spent a lot of time outside. I lived on deck 9 and 10, so I could go and obviously on deck 4 or the veranda, I'm outside. So sitting in those lounge chairs, just enjoying the sea air. Yeah, that was nice.
That's where you wanted to be.
Yeah.
So you guys are kind of a multi-generational family. What were some of the things that you guys got to do together? Did you guys do together?
Well, they don't snorkel like us. We did snorkeling at Cabo. So that was a you go your way, we'll go our way thing. That was fun. As far as things that we did together, we did a lot of trivia, a couple of the shows. We enjoy the trivia. And we also like they had a different variation of some of the game shows. That was enjoyable. And then my father-in-law, we usually would, when we would leave a port or, at night, we would meet up on deck 10 and walk around together, just enjoying the night air and looking, when we left San Diego on the 3-night after we had already come and gone from Cabo, we stayed up on deck 10 for about an hour. And they modified the dining because there was such a little amount of people on the 3-night. Rather than have a first seating, second seating, I noticed in the app that our dining time was 6:50. And I was like, what is this about? I contacted customer service on the application, which is real simple. And they said, no, what we're going to do is we're going to have one dining. And it's going to be 6:50, 7, and then 7:10. They had us staggered out. and it was fine. It was actually kind of nice because we had a little bit more time. It wasn't too late of dining, but yet you had that little extra time to do some things. That gave us more time to spend together and hang out. And we watched a couple of movies. There was definitely, I know some people don't like to watch movies on the ship, but we hadn't seen Shang-Chi, so we wanted to see that, the Marvel film. That was good.
That was great. I
Yes.
think I loved that movie.
Definitely. In-laws enjoyed it too, and they are not Marvel people, but they've gone to a few of them with us, and they definitely enjoyed it. So
I'm jealous because the Eternals is going to have its premiere at sea during the Panama Canal cruise, and we're getting off just before, so I don't think we'll get to see it. But I do feel like that is a staple of the Disney Cruise Line, to see a recent movie that would cost you $20 in the theater. That's a cool thing that you did. Was there any other sort of activities, events, spaces, or things that you did that you want to highlight for our listeners?
We just tried to enjoy the ship. Like, we didn't get off in Ensenada. I'll take that back. My wife got off because she wanted to buy some vanilla. She and her mom, they went, and my father-in-law, they went into town, took a shuttle. So we didn't have anything planned in Ensenada. Cabo, we did the snorkeling, which was fun. But otherwise, we just tried to enjoy the ship. I know the 4-night or the 3-night after us was 1,100, so it's starting to build back up. And that's good. I'm glad. We didn't have the sail away party, which honestly, at this point, we've got 9 under our belt. So we kind of just do our own thing at that point. So, but I mean, it's that energy, is definitely something that, you feel like it kind of missed. But overall, we try to enjoy the ship and just take everything in and just appreciate where we were and how long it had been. I'm sure you've had this conversation with people that don't cruise. They don't understand that whole concept of, wow, it was only a year and a half since you cruised, and you're like, yeah, it's something that once you enter that world, it changes you, and it definitely had changed us.
Well, let's run with the kids clubs a little bit too. Your boys are kind of in between. You got one that would be good for the ocean, kind of ending his time in the Oceaneers Lab and Club, and then one that's eligible for Edge. What did they do? Were they up in the clubs? Was your older son up in Edge? What were their experiences on board?
Our 9-year-old was anxious to get right back in there. And we told him, hey, it's a little different right now. So you had to secure the times. But what was nice is once you were on board, you could secure more times if they were available, which we did. They kind of kept them in little groups and they would move around. So typically the kids would go, you drop them off and they go wherever they want to. 1 minute they're in Andy's room, 1 minute they're over in, the Frozen area, Marvel. It wasn't like that this time. So they kind of moved them around in an orderly fashion as a group in a little bubble. The kids still liked it. Our oldest, he could go to Edge anytime he wanted to. Anytime it was open, he could go there, and he did. I told him on the last cruise, on the 3-night, I said, you need to go to the kids club, Oceaneers Club, right now. I mean, especially now, because our next cruise, he'll be 13, and he won't be able to do that again. So we took advantage. I told him, you need to take advantage of this, because this is, this could be the last hurrah as far as the, other than open house. And he did. They had a lot of fun, and they were less crowded. Obviously, there was less kids or whatnot, especially with the 12-year-old restriction, vaccinated, 12 and up. The nursery's not open, so that's a thing. But overall, I mean, our kids had the same fun that they normally have. It was just a little bit different schedule, which they just had to. My kids adapted pretty well. There was no complaining.
I feel like we're getting a lot of really good feedback about, normally it's a little bit more of a free for all. Now it's more structured, but it seems like everybody's kids have been really happy with that structure. So that's good to hear.
Yeah. Just the fact that they're back there, they enjoyed it. I know that some of the little kids, like when they see Mickey and Minnie, they kind of go running up there, and if you watch any of the videos, they're kind of like, the parents are like, hold on.
Little football, they're blocking them.
Yeah. And the characters are totally professional and courteous, and they consider that. As far as my kids go, I mean, they have the same fun that they normally have. I don't know if it's a tween age. My oldest is 12 and he'll be 13 in March. I'm going to go back to the room and watch a movie. I got that a couple of times, he'd want, and I'd go back and he's watching like Ant-Man. So I'm like, okay, man, it's your vacation also. You can do what you want. And then they played in the pool area as much as they wanted. And they did that a lot.
That's good.
Yeah, the pool area was awesome. So a little bit of changes as far as, you get in line, they kind of regulate that, but it was real simple to get in there, and our kids enjoyed it a lot. So
kids are adaptable. I mean, through this whole thing, that's the one thing that I've really seen is, kids I think it's the adults that cause more of the problems than the kids do. The kids just have a good time with it. And I know, Chris, I know you want to talk about Captain Minnie, or at least ask about Captain Minnie. Was she present even on that ship? I don't even know. Or was she in the dream all the time?
Present.
I don't know. She's driving the dream.
Driving the ship.
Oh, Captain Minnie was there. Epaulets and all. She was there to greet us. In fact, when we walked on board, I'll have to post the video. As soon as we walked on board, there's Captain Minnie and Captain Mickey, and they're doing the Sail Away song that they do right now. So that was cool to see the epaulets on Minnie, and she was there. And of course, we saw a lot of costume changes, and it was crazy. We were in Ensenada. My youngest and I were just kind of walking around, and there was these seals that always reside right out of on the harbor seals. They were right on the dock. Yeah, they're there. They're still there. Yeah, it's like they haven't moved. It's probably the same ones. We went out there just to take a look, and Stitch was out there. And I was like, hey. And he kind of points to me, and he looks at I had a Marvel shirt on, and he's looking at it. He's giving me thumbs up. Of course, they're not talking. And it was just cool to, I think they were enjoying the cruise as much as we were. So it was cool. The characters definitely, enjoyed their selves as well. So, but yeah, Captain Minnie was there in full force.
Well, you're not the first person to tell me that you or someone in your party needed to get vanilla in Mexico. So maybe I need to get vanilla in Mexico. I don't think I really thought about that, but I'm also literally making homemade vanilla extract right now. Nice. So I don't know. But my point is, that's sort of not a real excursion. I think you mentioned that you did one excursion over in Cabo, was it?
Yeah, we snorkeled. We did one of the snorkel excursions, and it was a little short. I mean, the boat ride was longer, but honestly, just being on that boat out in the water, and if you've been to Cabo, it's so gorgeous. I live in Phoenix, and I like to tell people that Cabo is kind of like where Arizona met the water. It's just, it's the same geographic. There's mountains and whatnot. It's gorgeous, though. The water is so blue. It's not Tahiti blue, but it's pretty blue. And but we did the snorkel adventure, and that was fun. We all got out in the water and snorkeled off the boat, and they gave us free drinks on the way back, which was nice. On Ensenada, my in-laws did a wine tour, and they enjoyed it immensely. And one of them's not a wine drinker, but just went to go and just kind of experience it to get off the ship. And they were kind of wanting to change at the last second, like maybe we won't go. And then they ended up keeping it, and they were glad they did. So they did a wine tour, and they enjoyed it a lot. So they fed them and gave them wine.
So they were pretty happy.
Yeah.
So overall, with these excursions, you guys leave as a group and you come back as a group. Anything else stand out as far as differences that people would expect to see?
Well, you remember The Real World on MTV?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Well, that was our tour group. They told us specifically, they said, if anybody leaves the group, you cannot get back on the ship. If anybody walks away during the excursion and does their own thing, they cannot get back on the ship. They made that very clear. And so, of course, we're not going anywhere. As we got off the ship, we start walking along the dock, and we're all like, come on, group. We're all like, literally, come on, guys, come on. And there's kids and adults, and we're walking together. And then somebody's child had to use the restroom. We're like, no. At first, we're like, no, you can't break off from the group. So we get back towards the, what do you call it? The shuttle boats or whatever, the
tenders.
Yeah, the tenders. And there was a restroom there. And we literally all were standing by the area where the child went in to go to the restroom with the mom. We're just standing there like, nobody leaves. Okay, hold on. All right, she's out. Let's go. And we literally like this little huddle group, and we kept it, and it was all in good spirits. Everybody got along. It was kind of a unique thing in today's times. You're like, this is awesome. We're all just happy to be here, and whatever works. When we walked off the ship, of course, there was when we got off the tender, actually, there was a lot of vendors that were like, come, water taxi. So there's a lot of temptations, and there's a lot of shirts, and there's a lot of stores. And of course, if you're not vaccinated, which a lot of these under 12-year-olds obviously are, they're not. You can't break off from that Disney cruise. You can't get off the ship. In fact, everybody knew where we were going and where we needed to be, and Disney does a really good job of keeping that all in order, and we knew where to go. And it felt like a normal excursion, honestly. I mean, we just followed the group, but there was that little heightened awareness, like don't break off because we don't want somebody to not get back on the ship. And everybody followed the rules.
Well, getting back up to San Diego then on that last day of the second trip, was there anything that stood out as far as disembarkation went?
Disembarkation, it was easy. So basically, on the first cruise, we had the instructions that go eat breakfast at whatever time. We had to eat breakfast, I think, at 7:10. And then on the envelope letter, in the envelope, it said basically, don't get off the ship if you're getting back on before 9, because otherwise, now if you want to go explore Port San Diego, you can go off and go do whatever, but make sure you get tested over at the Broadway Pier terminal. Well, we weren't doing that. We wanted to get right back on the ship. So it was very clear, and the instructions were easy. We know where people were there to point us in the right direction. And there was a couple of cast members that are contracted to, the San Diego port. They don't work for Disney, but they work for Disney. They were actually on the cruise. So there was a couple of times this one lady, in fact, she would all of a sudden she's wearing the Disney tag stuff, the outfit, the costume. When we disembarked on the final day, it was also very simple. We had breakfast at 7:00. We had Tinkerbell bag tags. So you're waiting to hear that bag tag can now disembark and go to customs. We just happened to be talking to a cast member, and she said, you can get off, go ahead. And so we went over and we just walked off the ship and went down and got our bags. They were there. And it was the easiest disembarkation I've ever had.
And just walk across the street and your car's right there and you're on your way.
Yeah, I'm telling you, whenever we tested between the 4 and 3 night, and they drove around the block to get back over to Pier B. And when we did, I literally I looked down that Ash Avenue or whatever. It's right behind the window, and I said, "There's our pilot. It's still parked, so we're good. The car's not towed or anything." Yeah, nobody took it. And then we pull right up, and there's one of the Disney cast members. He was wearing like a Hawaiian pumpkin shirt, like a Halloween And I said, "There's the pumpkin guy. We got to follow that guy." And so they literally pulled right up front, and we got off and went through a side door. And all of us on the bus that had just been tested. So we all got off the bus right there, went through security. And then as soon as we had already been tested. So as soon as we walked through security, we went right to the check-in desk. They scanned our passports, which I will say at San Diego with the lighting and the internet's this kind of iffy sometimes because you're in this big metal building. Once they scanned the passports, we were right on board. And that was it. I mean, we spent less than 10 minutes in the terminal on the second time. So it was awesome. But getting off, easy, real easy.
That's good to hear. Well, before we wrap it up, Ryan, just a couple questions for you. How about you've cruised on the East Coast and the West Coast? Any tips for people? For the most part, the majority of people in the U.S. that are cruising with Disney are cruising out of Port Canaveral over in Miami. Any tips for people coming out to the West that have never done it before?
San Diego is a different place and very smaller place than I mean, Port Canaveral is not really a big metroplex area, but San Diego also it's not that big as far as like compared to Orlando. The water's a little cooler on the West Coast. And then if you're cruising in the fall, if you're just doing an Ensenada, you're going to have a little bit of cooler temperatures. I wore pants a couple nights for dinner. I didn't wear my shorts a couple of nights. I was cold, but I'm also an Arizonan that lives in Phoenix. The weather can be a little cooler for some of us that are warm-blooded. Once we got down to Cabo, it was nice and warm, and the water is warm. And then if you do that 7-night, Mazatlan's nice and warm. So is Puerto Vallarta. I mean, it's on the same latitude almost as Hawaii. But getting down there, it can get a little cool. The water can get a little choppy right out there. We had done a 7-night in 2018. I think it was Hurricane Enrique or whatever. He passed right over the Baja Peninsula, and we came right afterwards, and it was rough. And so the smaller ship on that can get a little rocky. But if you don't have a problem with the waves, you're going to be fine. But if you do have a problem with the waves, I would say take a little Dramamine, or the patch, or even my wife has the wrist bands or whatever. They work great for her. Or eat apples and drink ginger ale, and that works too sometimes. So, but otherwise, it's a different type of cruising. It's, I know Alaska is a lot different than any other of the other cruising, and same with the Mediterranean. The Baja is a little different. Mexico's a little different than the Caribbean, but the people were so grateful to see everyone. And I mean, I'm talking about when we get off the ship, the people of Mexico, they were excited. I enjoy it. We have a 7-night booked for next fall, October 2022. So we're excited to get back on the Wonder for that.
Well, good on you guys. Chris, what do you think? Final thoughts? Your cruise is coming up here soon. Any final questions before you get on the Wonder and sail down there as well? I did notice that Brian, who we had on today, who was on that 4-day with you, Ryan, he said the same thing, that the ship was moving to get down to Cabo. So you might be prepared for that. It might be kind of windy going down there and back, because they really got a haul to get down there and back in time. But do you have any final questions there, Chris?
No, I think I'm super excited. Seth has never been to Mexico. I grew up here, so I've been to Mexico, but Seth has never been down there. You're absolutely right that Baja is unlike anywhere else in the world. It's gorgeous. And the beauty of that type of almost desert meeting the ocean is really, it's nothing like the Caribbean. And if you ever have an opportunity to see that part of the world, you should.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Mexican culture. Mexican food is one of my favorite foods. So it's a unique part of the world, and I think people need to experience it. The scenery, everything. It's just gorgeous.
Well, when they bring the Fantasy over to the West Coast and she takes over for the Wonder, and they retheme Animator's Palette to Coco, it's going to be just the perfect ship.
Is that happening?
We just have a running joke that the Fantasy is coming to the West Coast, and the Fantasy is going to do Mexican cruises and Alaska. And from a business model, it makes sense. They make so much money off of those Alaskan cruises that having the higher capacity ship there. Oh, and also, I didn't get to be on the little Coffee at the Cove episode that was recorded today, but the Wonder has a big gap in its sailing schedule. They released all the other ships through 2023, but not the Wonder. And my hunch is that the Wonder's going somewhere international, and the Fantasy is going to start doing those cruises out of Mexico. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But that's all speculation. Don't believe us.
Ryan, you want to speculate, Ryan, too?
Oh, I would love to, because I've been saying for a while, I'm like, there's no reason why they don't have a Coco musical on Mexican cruises. It fits perfect. It's like, come on. And also, as far as the Fantasy goes, yes, bring it out here. I was talking to my father-in-law today, and we're talking about getting on the Wish. And he goes, I really want to get on the Wish, but I don't want to fly all the way out to Canaveral just to go on a 4-night or 3-night. I mean, yeah, back-to-back's fun. It's like, why don't they put these big ships on these new long, put it on the Fantasy's itinerary and move the Fantasy out here. They spent billions of dollars on these ships. Like, use them for the big long, because we like to spend time on the ship.
They make so much more money from the 3 and 4 nights than they do from the 7 nights. It's a hard business case. But you're right about that. Also, putting Aladdin on the Wish was a sort of a bummer for a lot of folks, because it was like, why are they taking a show that already exists? It's because they're closing Aladdin on the Fantasy and opening Coco the musical. So don't worry, everyone. And then they're going to keep Frozen on the Fantasy, because you need Frozen to go up to Alaska.
There you go.
I promise you this is going to happen. I have no authority to say that, but I promise you this is going to happen.
I've been saying that for a while. They need Coco on one of the musicals. No brainer.
They run Coco when they're sailing out of San Diego, and they switch it over to Frozen when they get up to Alaska. And I have to remind everybody that all comments made on the DCL podcast are speculation by their guests, are not part of the Disney company whatsoever.
But they are confirmed by the Walt Disney Company.
Well,
stop, Chris. We don't know anything. We have no idea. But
we were talking about, they only have the one 7-night on the 7-night Mexican Riviera twice, one in the spring and one in the fall.
Right.
And I said, I wish they had a 10-night where it would go, basically it does, day at sea, Cabo, and then go up to La Paz on the inside of Sea of Cortez, and then go up to Guaymas.
Oh yeah.
And do the inside of the Sea Cortez and then back down, like turn it into like almost the inside passage, but it's that Mexican inside passage. I would love that.
La Paz is beautiful, and the little islands right off the coast there too, or just there's so much stuff that you could do up there. Yeah,
absolutely.
that would be a great sailing. Well, I guess as we finish up tonight, Ryan, thank you so much for coming on. It's always a pleasure to go banter back and forth with you on Twitter, and it's good to see you again, and I'm super happy for your family to be back on board the Disney Wonder. So you've got the 7-night. Is that your next night, or is that your next cruise, which is next October, or do you have anything planned in between now and then?
Yeah, we've got a 7-night in March planned. So out of Port Canaveral, we'll be heading out for spring break. So then, and then we bought a marker, of course, on the Wonder. So we've got that out in the ether. So
you've got there burning a hole in your pocket right now.
Well, yeah, as of right now, we'll turn platinum next March. So
I love it.
That's cool.
Well, once again, Ryan, thank you so much for coming on and doing this trip report with us. All the best, and we look forward to bringing you back on either in March, or if that marker decides to find a cruise between now and then, we'd love to have you back on. So all the best to you and your family, Ryan. Enjoy the holidays, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Well, that's going to wrap up our show today. Once again, I really want to thank Ryan for coming on and sharing his and his family's experiences as they got back on board Disney Cruise Line and sailed on the Disney Wonder and the back-to-back sailings. The first and the second sailing out of San Diego this past October. It's always good to catch up with good friends of the show. It was fun to have Ryan back on, and we look forward to bringing him back again soon. Well, if you're enjoying this podcast and you know others who would enjoy it as well, we sure would appreciate it if you pass it along. That helps us get the word out in the Disney cruising, and just Disney community in general. Also, if you have time to go over to iTunes and leave us a review, we sure would appreciate it. That really helps us get the show known as well. Well, we've got a lot of fun shows coming up as the fall starts to wane and we slowly start to head into winter. We've got a great show with Len Testa next week covering Virgin Voyages, kind of a really interesting topic, a really interesting cruise line. It was a lot of fun to talk to him, and we can't wait to bring that show to you as well. Also want to give a huge shout out to Lake and Katie, who finished the Wine and Dine this weekend, along with Steve from Tampa, and everybody else who was out there running as Run Disney got back started. We'll try and put together a quick show, kind of a recap to let you guys know what it was like in the corrals and how everything went during Wine and Dine weekend. We'd also like to thank our Patreon supporters who help bring this show to you each and every week. If you'd like to find out more about our Patreon program, you can go over to patreon.com/DCL podcast and find out all the information there. Well, between now and our next show, if you and your family are heading out on a sailing, if you're heading down to Walt Disney World for the 50th, on behalf of myself, Steve, Christy, and Chris, be well, take care of each other, enjoy the time you have out there vacationing, and we'll see you next time on the DCL podcast.
The DCL podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.